Hello, good morning. This is not Edinburgh, it's not the Fringe, but it is me a couple of days after having been at the Fringe, having taken my daughter Keris along at the age of 13 to suffer at the hands of her father doing some shows. So we saw three. I've seen a couple more online, which has been an interesting watch. And it's taken me a couple of days just to contemplate a couple of things that were obvious to me when I was there. First of all, cost. The cost of the Fringe, because a couple of the shows that we went to, I paid for us to be there rather than using my kind of reviewer's hat to get sort of free tickets. And it was expensive. Not that I'm complaining overly, because much of that money has to go to the cost of the entertainers and indeed the acts that are there. So therefore I'm contributing to the arts, but it was still pretty pricey. And if you're going to try and get a full day at the Fringe and maybe get 2 or 3 shows in, if that's kind of what you want to do, it's going to cost a lot, and that's why the free Fringe is so important. And it just reminded me that the ordinary punter, in fact, not just the ordinary punter, the working class punter, the guys who don't have a huge amount of cash, are going to struggle to attend events, so it's not going to be for them. So it just reminded me of the privilege that I have, not only of being able to go into review, but also of having the cash available if I want to see more. The second thing is the ticketing. Now, we're in a pandemic, we're perhaps towards the end of it. We're seeing increasingly numbers of theatre opening doors and pubs and indoor venues. It could be argued that the Edinburgh Fringe have had plenty of time in order to get a ticketing process in place, but some of it's quite confusing, even the media stuff. And one of the great joys, of course, is the admin staff who are helping you with tickets and so on, who are always great for me, and up there, particularly at places like the Assembly and indeed Dance Space and so on. I've been trying to get to see a show at Dance Space, which I've not managed to yet. I've had 4 goes at it so far because it's a highly popular show and sold out, which is fantastic. I think that's marvellous, but I can't get in to see it yet, and I'm still trying. So all of that and a wee bit more is kind of a testimony to the success that we're seeing at the Fringe. But the ticketing's confusing. Sometimes they're not available when they are. Some of the times the way in which you have to book them, for example, there's a bubble that you have to book in for multi-story, and you have to book in the number of tickets. So when it came up in mine, it said to me that I had 2 bubbles of 2. I had 1 bubble of 2, and the first thing that came to mind is, have I been charged for 2 bubbles of 2? Well, no, I hadn't. It was absolutely charged as it should have been, but again, there are little niggly bits that I wonder whether or not people, the ordinary punters, are looking at and going, I'm not particularly convinced. But overall, is it a success? So far, I think it's been a moderate success. One of the dancers at the shows that I was at on Sunday was talking to the audience and talked to me about my role as a reviewer and was fascinated. He said the term about 7 or 8 times, I think probably just nervous that I was going to sit there with a pen and a paper and try and write down what it was that he was doing and give him an opinion later. But it allowed us to have that conversation as to why I was there and what I wanted to contribute to his art form, which was really nice, and reminded me for a second time that day of the responsibility that those of us who review have, not just to look clever because we've got a turn of phrase or we've got something that's come to our head that will add to the poster, add to the review, give people an insight as to what they might need to expect when they go and see this, but also to the people who have spent ages, their lives, putting this thing together. And if it's not quite at that point where it should be shared with an audience, not to ruin their dreams, not to slate them completely, but to be honest and through that, honestly, hopefully improve the arts, which ultimately I think is all our responsibilities. So it's taken me a couple of days to get through that in my head, partly I think because the pandemic was something where we were out of a theatre for a period of time, 18 months away from a theatre before I get back in, and so therefore I've had to take time to contemplate what it means and the joy of it, which is back. And I'll be back to the Fringe on Wednesday, the 18th of August, and I've already got most of my shows booked. There's a spot I think I'm just waiting for one to come back on, and once I've got that, I've got a full day. But once again, I'll be finished by about 9 o'clock at night. No bad thing, but it still feels Fringe light. So till tomorrow morning I think it will be, and I will speak again and update you as to where I'm going to be. It's bye for now.